sir, I'm not from Colorado. I don't know this area. I'm just here for a wedding. He says, boy, you're in Illinois. Come on, we've all had some rough nights out partying. And here are my top 5, worst 5 nights out drinking. The Wednesday before Thanksgiving was always a great night to go out. So we're in college at the time, and we were also going to go hunting the next day. So there was a few of us. I was driving us around, and we were in kind of the dingy part of the town, and we each had a couple pictures at this little bar. We went outside. I kind of remember moving a coat from like the trunk to inside or something in the alley there before we left. We went to Danny Arthur's, which was a little bit fancier place in West Des Moines. And we were in there drinking that night for several hours. And when we left the bar that night, and as I was going to the car, I thought, you know, I've got a 44 Magnum under the seat of this car. I have been drinking. It's probably a good idea if I move it from under the seat to the trunk, because then it's, you know, legal to be separate from me. But I thought, with my luck, if I do that, somebody will see me moving it, and I'll get in trouble, and it's going to be a whole thing. So I'll just leave it alone. As we get out of the parking lot onto the main road, all of a sudden, whoosh, cherries everywhere around us. There were 5 cars, marked and unmarked cop cars, that started heading towards us, and somebody says, well, somebody's fucked. Well, somebody was us. They surrounded us on the main road. Each car had 2 cops that got out pointing guns at us. So we had 10 Glocks pointed at us. They started yelling at us to get out of the car. As the driver undid my seatbelt, got out, hands up. They took me around, cuffed me, put me in the grass on the side of the road, on my knees with a gun at my head. I said, I don't know how you know it was there, but in case you're looking for it, the 44 mag is under the seat. I have a gun permit in my wallet in my right rear pocket. So they pulled everybody out of the car, handcuffed all of us. We were all lined up, execution style, basically, on our knees, cuffs behind our back with cops pointing guns at our head, while half of them held us over on the side of the road. The other half were searching the car. So I saw them find my 44 mag under the seat. Felt a little bit dirty seeing someone else handle my gun like that. So they popped the trunk, and what do they find back there? A gym bag full of shotgun shells, hunting knives, shotguns back there. So it really didn't look great necessarily. Turns out what had happened is at the first bar we were at, someone had seen me handle the gun while I was moving my coat to the trunk or something like that. They called it into the cops. They said there's 4 guys, all armed and dangerous, in some alley, you know, and called in the plate number. So the cop that was talking to me the most said, okay, I see your permit. Let's go ahead and give you a field sobriety test. For the field sobriety test, I said, look, I might be a little bit wobbly right now. I just had 10 guns pointed at my head, so I'm a little bit nervous. Understood. Gives me the breath test. I basically tried to like puff up my cheeks, but not really blow that hard. I don't know if it works or not, but regardless, I did only blow a .02, which is nothing. You can get that from Listerine product. Eventually, the cop tells me, okay, you've got a permit, you're not drunk, should be no problem. Hold tight, we'll get you out of here in a little bit. And I watch him talk to his lieutenant, and his lieutenant is probably pissed that he had 10 cops waiting for a bunch of kids that were just out having a few drinks and really are not terrorists. I watch the officer tell the lieutenant, hey, he's got a permit, he's not drunk, passed the sobriety test, passed the breath test, we really have nothing here. And the lieutenant gets really mad and says, give him a concealed weapon violation. And the officer says, based on what? He's got a permit, he's not drunk. And the lieutenant says, just give it to him. So the officer comes back to me and says, here, this is your ticket, I need you to sign it. And I'm like, for what? And I said, you know, you guys set the standards of what's considered drunk or not. I'm not drunk, which means my permit's valid. You just told me I was okay, and I saw that guy tell you to just screw me, basically. And the officer said, just sign it. I'm not a lawyer, I don't know what to do, so I got to go deal with that over the next few months. On one of many nights partying up in Austin, I was with a buddy, we'll call him Mr. Brownstone. We were at another buddy's house up there, parked my car there, all carpooled down to 6th Street. Mr. Brownstone somehow got us kicked out of a bar, if I remember right. We hopped a ride in the back of a pickup with some Army kids from Colleen up there, and they get us right back to the car. The problem is, my car was in front of another car in the driveway. So Mr. Brownstone had to sort of guide me out through the grass, out into the street, and we started heading back home to San Antonio. About San Marcos, I was getting a little tired, and he offered to drive since I was getting tired. So I started sleeping in the passenger seat, he drove. At some point, I saw him passing the 1604 exit in San Antonio, and I said, dude, that was your turn. And next thing I know, he's passing the 410 exit. I'm like, dude, that was 410. I said, turn around and go get back on 410, get us home. So the next time I wake up, open my eyes, and I can tell we've been on the road for a while, and I see an I-35 north sign again, going back towards Austin. I said, dude, where the fuck are we? He looks at me, he goes, I don't fucking know. So I said, pull the fuck over. I got in. I did the first turnaround, started coming back. As soon as I took the turnaround, red and blue light showed behind us. They pulled us over. I got out of the car. The cop asked me where we'd been. I said we'd been up in Austin, visiting friends, and we're heading back to San Antonio. And he says, well, you want to tell me why you're 20 miles north of New Braunfels? So I look at Mr. Brownstone and I say, New Braunfels, dude? He just kind of shrugs. Then the cop gets mad and says, I know you've been on 6th Street. I can smell the booze on you, which never a good sign. He said, how many of you had to drink? And I said, a few. And he looks at Mr. Brownstone in the passenger seat and says, how many of you had to drink? Not being able to come up with his own thoughts at that point, he says, a few. The cop looks at me and says, what I'm trying to say is which of the two of you is less fucked up right now? He said, it's 4 a.m. I've got better shit to do than chase you two assholes around all night. He said, I've been getting cell phone reports on this vehicle for the last couple hours. So then he points at my buddy and says, you get in here and drive. You, to me, get some coffee and sit in the passenger seat. I wanted to say, don't do that. He's the reason we got pulled over in the first place. But I'm thinking, don't look and get forced in the mouth. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. We got in. Brownstone got back under the wheel, and I just stayed awake to make sure that I guided him to every turn until we were able to get back to our house. Another night in Austin, we're at the library, which is a bar, not an actual place of books. We're drinking the $2 Long Island iced teas. We're sitting at a table around the edge of the bar. A few girls come and sit with us. Some of my other buddies ended up back at a hotel with them. I ended up at the aquarium next door, I think. So I ended up back at the library, start drinking with a group of people. It was one dude and two girls. And we all hopped in the cab afterwards and cab back to their place. I'm laying on the couch. The dude's girlfriend goes back into his room, and he's sitting outside talking to the other girl. Pretty soon, him and the girl outside come in, and he asked me to get on the floor. No problem, I'm happy just to have a roof over my head. I lay on the floor and start passing out. As I do, I see that dude and the girl get on the couch together while his girlfriend is back in the bedroom. So I wake up the next morning, look over, and there's the girl, partially dressed, laying on the couch under the blanket. The guy's not there, so I assume he's back in his bedroom with his girlfriend. I decide, well, I'm awake, I might as well take a shower, clean up. So I go in and I use the shower, clean up. So I help myself to a beer out of the fridge, to a protein bar out of the cupboard. So as I'm enjoying my beer and my protein bar, looking at this partially dressed girl passed out on the couch, I realize it doesn't look so good since I was laying like 3 feet from her on the floor. And I'm pretty sure that guy's not going to admit to it because his girlfriend is in there. So I decided it was time for me to vacate the premises. I grabbed a couple more bottles of beer out of the fridge, put them in my pockets, and tried to navigate my way out of the apartment complex, which did include scaling a fence at some point, and it was a little bit awkward trying to get over it without spilling my beers. As I was walking through a bank parking lot, some girl was driving through the drive-thru to get some cash, I guess. And I knocked on her window and I said, hey, would you be willing to give me a ride to the Sheraton Hotel or wherever I think my friends are out with these girls. She was nice enough to do so. She was on her way to work. So she let me in. I offered her a beer out of my pocket, but she refused it. And eventually met back up with my buddies and made it home safely. I did installations of projects, and I had some equipment salesmen that were a lot of fun when we got together, sometimes a little bit too much fun. We ended up on a 10-day bender across 3 states, 5 cities, and it was work related, but the problem is every night you're out partying. So coming back from that, the last day was on Thursday night. It ended in San Antonio. At some point, me and one of the guys were riding in the back of a pickup on the way to some bar because we clearly couldn't drive anymore. The last memory of the night was being at the old Jewels here in San Antonio over by Babcock and Eckert, being behind the bar, washing glasses, trying to be helpful until the bouncers finally kicked me out and told me to go home, which was fortunately just a long walk up. 2 days later on Saturday, I woke up and felt like I had a Cadillac sitting on my chest. I couldn't breathe. It was just very constrained. It takes a lot for me to go to a doctor, but I did that day. The doctors looked me over. They insisted that I'd been doing coke, and I explained to them I've never done a drug in my life. The doctor said, well, have you been drinking? And I said, yeah, I've been on a bender for 10 days, and I've been in and out of airports, airplanes, so you're in these flying germ tubes. I said I've been doing a lot of Red Bull vodka. Would that give you the same information that you think I've been doing coke? Finally, they said, well, if you haven't been doing coke, then that means you had a heart attack at age 28, 9, whatever I was. So they gave me a NOS pill, which made my head feel like it was going to float off like a balloon, and they started prepping me for post-heart attack surgery. Finally, what they realized is that an EKG for a coke overdose, heart attack, or this pericarditis, which is an infection in the lining of the heart, all look the same on an EKG. So they ended up keeping me overnight in the hospital. The next day, they said, we're going to keep you for 1 more day. I said, fuck you are, and I started ripping the electrodes off. And he said, okay, we'll let you out of here. And so I was out of the hospital, but that was just the beginning of a lot of problems later. The most fucked up of these started for a wedding. I'd flown into an airport. My buddy, we'll call him Irv, picked me up, threw me a 5th of a Hawkeye whiskey, which was the cheap shit we used to drink at Tazzles at Iowa State. So I had that on the way to the other airport in town to pick up our other friends. And then we go to lunch, starting to get cloudy. I mean, in my brain, not the weather. Eventually, we have the rehearsal pictures, and we're at the rehearsal party at some bar downtown. I remember thinking, I should probably go for a walk and just get some fresh air. So I did. The next clear memory I have is getting up out of a river, freezing, soaking wet, thinking, uh-oh, I need to call for help. So I grabbed my phone, which was clearly drowned because it had been in the river with me. Don't know where I'm at. Can't even see a glow of a city or anything. I see some kind of suburb area looking spots, but I'm like, wow, I wouldn't want to go knock on that door late at night because if somebody did that to my house, I'd probably answer the door with a gun. But I found what looked like a church with some pretty stained glass windows. I thought, hey, God forgives, I'll pay him back for the window tomorrow. I had a buddy that died of hypothermia years ago, so I'm thinking, don't die of hypothermia. That's my focus. Don't die of hypothermia. So I go to this building, see the stained glass, I find the smallest one right next to the big door, and I grab an ashtray to smash the window out. So I took it, broke the little window out, and by the way, a stained glass window is much harder to break than normal windows because it's got the steel frame in it. Finally got enough glass broke that I could reach in and undo the deadbolt on the big main door. So I opened the door and a bunch of alarms started going off. I remember seeing a fire alarm switch, and in my feeble brain at the time, I'm thinking, okay, alarms are going off, that's a switch, so if I turn it, that will shut the alarms off. Well, I went and pulled the fire alarm switch, and more alarms came on. So it was really loud in there, but not a big deal. I'm indoors. I walk over and lay on a couch. I figure I'm inside, I'm protected from the cold, I'm still soaking wet, but at least I'm not going to freeze to death. And with these alarms, surely cops, medical personnel, someone will show up and keep me from dying. So I laid on the couch. Shortly afterwards, I was woke up by the local police department, who were giving me a nice new shiny set of bracelets behind my back. I said, hey, sorry about the window. I'm obviously soaking wet because I fell in a river. I just didn't want to freeze to death. Happy to pay for that window. No problem. Sorry about the mess. They haul me out to the front lawn, which looked like they had the whole SWAT team there, like they were expecting some kind of crazy armed invasion, not just some drunk kid that didn't want to freeze to death. They take me away to jail. I'm sitting in the cop shop. They've taken my clothes because they're soaking wet, so I'm under a blanket, handcuffed to a bench in front of the officer sitting at his desk. He looks at me and says, what the hell were you thinking? I said, sir, I'm not from Colorado. I don't know this area. I'm just here for a wedding. I just got lost. I'm sorry. And he looks at me, really confused, and he says, boy, you're in Illinois. And then I got confused, and I looked and I see the big Illinois flag behind him. I was like, Illinois? I was like, oh, that's right. Colorado was my sister's wedding. That was a couple months ago. This is Illinois for Ford's wedding. That's right. You're right. It's Illinois. At the time I was escorted to the cage, I was told it was a simple misdemeanor. It was just a window. Should be no big deal. I go back there. By morning, when I'm let out of that cage, I was being set to transfer to county jail. Somehow, magically, in those couple hours, the church was actually a cosmetic surgeon's place. And God may forgive, but surgeons clearly do not, because that one window that I broke resulted in a bill for $10,500, which included replacing that window, a brand new door, because I turned the deadbolt, so he had to replace that, retiled the waiting room where I walked, and reupholstered all the furniture in the waiting room where I laid on that one couch. Oh, and he also replaced the fire alarm system because I'd activated that. $10,500 is also magically the threshold for a Class B felony. So that's what I was being charged with. I went to county jail, and there I was told I was looking at 1 to 3 years in the Illinois State Pen. Now, fortunately, I am now a proud member of the Illinois Second Chance Program, and I have no convictions, which is great, no felonies, clean record. I realize that I'm lucky enough to be able to look back at these disastrous nights of drinking that I wouldn't trade or relive for the world. Not everybody's so lucky. Even though I'm lucky enough to still be alive, still have a clean legal record, it does come at a price. Remember the pericarditis I told you about that was caused by one of those events? Well, at 34 years old, I had to have open heart surgery. 2 months ago, I had to have that surgery repaired. Last Friday, I was back in the hospital. Tomorrow, I'm going back to the hospital because my heart rate won't drop below 115 or 120. This cup, it's not bourbon. I can't drink right now. Hell, I can't even drink caffeine. This is just water. Boring old water. That's it. Believe me, I'm the biggest fan of creating your own adventure in life. Get all the experiences you can, have all the fun you can, go out and do whatever you want to do, whatever you can get away with. That's what life's all about. That's how we grow and how we learn. But learn from my mistakes. Try to be a little bit smarter than I was, which really shouldn't be too hard, and live to drink another drink.
Subscribe to my YouTube channel below and let's celebrate turning fuel and air into adrenaline.